All right, we are going to get started on our pre-meeting. Thanks everybody for being here. Got a lot of folks here. It's good. So we'll run through this agenda, get any questions or changes answered. I know Lee, you've got something at the end of the first part of the meeting, and then we'll get our regular meeting started at 6 o'clock. First on our agenda, approval of minutes, November 8th, 2021, 5 p.m. work session, November 10th, 2021, 5 p.m. special called work session, and November 15th, 2021, 9:30 a.m. work session. Any questions? All right, next we have an appeal, resolution number 21-380, approve $5,000 penalty against Healthcare Investment Group Incorporated doing business as First Response Ambulance Service for not meeting 2020 fourth quarter fractile response times.
To answer some of the questions last week, this is under the ordinance before the amendments changing the response time requirement to 9 minutes. The penalty is the new one, but at the meeting where the penalty was imposed, the $10,000 penalty had been imposed by the EMS coordinator. They reduced it in light of the coming change to 5,000, but it is under the 8-minute requirement as opposed to the 9. And the way fractile response works, it'd be very difficult to go back and recreate that to see what it'd be under the 9. So.
Okay. Any questions? All right, thanks, Chip. Next, public hearings, resolution number 21-234, authorize abatement of unsafe condition at 1613 Sherman Street Southeast. This is the one we gave a 30-day extension to on November 1st. No changes, any questions? All right, ordinance number 21-4482, approved pre-zoning request 1381-21 to zone 59.8 acres, more or less, located east of Central Avenue and south of Pool Valley Road to R5 residential. No changes, any questions? All right, ordinance number 21-4483, approved zoning request 1379-21, newly annexed property located west of McIntyre Lane and north of Wingate Way to be zoned R3. No changes, any questions? All right, next is ordinance number 21-4484, approved zoning request 1380-21 for newly annexed property west of McIntyre Lane and north of Wingate Way to R5. No changes, any questions? All right, resolution number 21-381, approved request for restaurant retail liquor license for Crab King Seafood located at 107 2nd Avenue Northeast, Decatur, Alabama 35601.
We're gonna have to pull that one from the agenda.
Okay.
The LLC paperwork that they submitted was different from the application, and it had already been advertised, so I spoke with them, they're gonna try to resubmit tomorrow before 5. We're gonna try to get on the 20th.
Okay. All right, any questions? Thanks, Lori. All right, resolutions. Resolution number 21-382, authorize Decatur Utilities to enter into long-term natural gas purchase agreements. Gary?
No change with us.
Okay, any questions? Resolution number 21-401, approved request from T-Mobile for a special use permit to modify equipment on the existing tower located at 401 McIntyre Lane. I thought I saw David. It's a different David.
My name is Jeff Bass, I'm with CMS. What we have for us is basically, T-Mobile want to modify that equipment on that tower. They want to, it's a 160-foot monopole and they're serving it at 162. They want to take down 9 of their antennas that they have up right now and go back up with 6 new antennas. This is that new 5G technology. CMS has reviewed the application, is our recommendation for approval.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. All right, resolution number 21-383, assessed 200 and, well, does anybody have any questions, any changes on any of these weed abatements, David? Okay, any questions from anyone on any of these? It goes through J. Okay, no questions. We'll move to K, resolution number 21-391, authorize mayor to submit an application on behalf of the city of Decatur to become a Keep America Beautiful Incorporated affiliate.
No change.
Any questions? Resolution number 21-392, authorize mayor to accept Alabama Historical Commission grant for Girl Scout Little House.
No changes.
I didn't know who I was going to.
Caroline will speak to it to me.
Okay. All right, any questions? Resolution number 21-393, approve JDL Preservation Consulting to perform Albany Commercial District resurvey.
No changes.
Any questions? Okay. All right, resolution number 21-394, approve one-time pay increase of $400 for full-time city employees.
The only change was to the eligibility date, hired on or before September 20th, and there was discussion last week about making that 900.
Yeah, if there, so the change to the date was made, but if there's gonna be a change to the amount, somebody would just have to amend the, or motion to amend the resolution. All right, any questions on that? All right, resolution number 21-395, approve proposed rate increase for Point Mallard Water Park. Stephanie?
No changes.
No changes, any questions? All right, resolution number 21-396, approve repave seal coat of Decatur City Hall parking areas. Any questions? All right, approve truck purchase for engineering department, street department. Any questions? Resolution number 21-398, authorize mayor to execute agreement with AlDOT to upgrade intersection US Highway 31 at Target entrance. Okay, any questions? Resolution number 21-399, approve payment to AlDOT for West Moulton widening. Any questions? Resolution number 21-400, approve budget amendment for engineering department renovations. Okay, any questions? And resolution number 21-402, relocate AT&T facilities between Wilson Street Northeast and Prospect Drive Southeast on 6th Avenue right away. Okay, any questions? All right, that's it for the agenda. Lee did have one thing he needed to address the council on.
Thank you. At the last Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission voted to adopt new subdivision regulations. There were no significant changes to the previous version. The update was simply to reflect a new state law that was passed that removed our authority over subdivisions in the planning jurisdiction. So that authority now passed to the county, and these simply reflect those changes. And I have a copy here for each of you.
Okay, any questions for Lee?
Police jurisdiction, yes, sir.
So, yes. Lee, will that, will our industrial base be exempt from that?
No, sir. Anything outside of our corporate limits is the responsibility of the subdivisions of those properties are now the responsibility of the county.
So, what, a plant is not considered a subdivision? I'm not arguing with you.
Just the land subdivision, anything to do with dividing or moving any property lines, we no longer have the authority outside of the corporate limits.
Okay, but our building department would still do inspections.
Building department, yes, there were provisions for, since Morgan County does not have their own building department, our building department still has jurisdiction there.
So they would have to meet building code, but not.
They still have to meet building codes, still are required to pull building permits, all of that. But since the county has their own adopted subdivision regulations, there's supersede our authority there
Okay.
now.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions? Thanks, Lee. All right, we will break until 6 o'clock. Thanks. All right, we will call the meeting to order. Dame Shaw will lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Father, we're grateful for this time to come together as a city to make decisions for the betterment of the city and its advancement. We thank you for our leaders, and we ask for your wisdom tonight and the public that's here. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dame. Roll call.
Ladner.
Here.
McMaster.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Hyde.
Here.
Pepper.
Here. All right, our first order of business will be to invite the Decatur Morgan CEO students up to share with us a little bit about their class project.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Camille Woodruff, and I'm a junior at Austin High School. These are my teammates, Mac Hurst and Alan Clara Mogul. We are 3 of the 7 teenagers that make up the Decatur Morgan 2021 to 2022 class. We are growing up in a city that has a history of racism, divisiveness around southwest, southeast, northwest, or northeast, and local high schools that only compete against each other in sports. Part of the Decatur Morgan CEO program is to form a class business. Our class decided that we can make a path forward without racism, your area of town, or your school colors. Decatur Together Tees was born out of a desire to bring Decatur together. We decided to create a shirt that represents historical, fun, and notable tourist landmarks in Decatur. Our goal is to unite Decatur as one. We believe that our group can be a catalyst to bring the city together and attract others to our hometown.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alan Clara. I am a senior at Decatur High School. As Camille said, we desire to bring Decatur together. In order, we also want to bring our company, which is Decatur Together Tees. I'm sorry. Our shirts include several locations, such as the Old State Bank, the Brick, the Bridge, and Polymoller. The artwork on our shirts was designed and drawn by my friend, who is a local Decatur High senior. We are pre-selling the shirts to our friends and family, but we are opening pre-sales to the public next week. In order to bring about real change, we needed to unite our city in a collective day. Our team has decided to declare January 14, 2022, Decatur Together Day. We believe this is a great way to kick off Martin Luther King weekend. We want to invite local businesses to, we feel this is a great way to kick off Martin Luther King. We want to invite local businesses to go as far as offer discounts to those who wear Decatur Together t-shirts. Our goal is to drive our customers to support local-owned businesses in Decatur on January 14, 2022. We want to support those who we want to become. We all want to become owner businesses when we finish this program.
My name is Mac Hurst. I'm a junior at Decatur Heritage Christian Academy. As Alan and Camille have described, we believe that we've created a business that could bring about real change in our community. We are here today to ask you for your support of our efforts. You are the leaders within our community. You represent each area of town that we desire to bring together. You have the power to make an influence on others to support our business in purchasing the shirt and empower local businesses to buy the idea of Decatur Together today on January 14, 2022. We entered this school year as 7 very different strangers from different walks of life. The CEO program has offered me and my team the chance to get to know people we would have never come in contact with aside from the program. We've worked hard to learn and to value what makes us all unique. We desire a city where everyone feels comfortable and has freedom. We desire a city where everyone has the opportunity to be themselves and feel comfortable doing so. We desire a city where everyone has a friend group that looks like ours. Thank you for the honor of sharing with you all this evening. It is our honor to be here with you all. We believe life goes better when we come together to overcome challenges in life and business. Don't you agree? Let's bring Decatur together and make an investment in the future of our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I think we have a couple other students here, if y'all want to stand up, that are in the program. If you guys don't know about this program, it is, I think we were the first one in the state of Alabama here in Decatur, and it is an incredible program where students, juniors and seniors this year, I think we've only had seniors before this year, but the thing that resonated with me is you guys decided to do this and you have to be at class at 7 a.m. every morning, right? I probably wasn't doing that when I was looking for ways to get there at 9 instead of 7. So just an amazing program. Thank you to Ellen and the board's leadership there. And then Megan is new this year directing the program, and she's also my neighbor, so I think she's doing a really good job. But thank you guys, really cool. I think it's my favorite class project so far of the 3 years. Business, class of business. That's right. And I think this business in particular can be ongoing. I mean, it's a really cool design, and we will do our best to help promote it. And the day you mentioned, we'll promote that as well. And thank you guys for coming. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Great job. Thanks for coming, guys. Ellen, I sent you a few texts. If we could get a little more information, that'd be great, okay? Thank you.
And what's the website where they can buy next week?
The website is decaturtogether.com. So if you would like to buy a t-shirt, feel free to go to that website and buy.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all. Great job. Thank you.
It's a good night. A lot of people here. All right, we do have, before we get into the agenda, there were 3 folks that signed up for public comments. One was Mr. Wiggins, and when we get to that agenda item, we'll let you speak then, if that's okay with you. Okay. We do have 2 others, if those 2 would like to speak now. Miss Bradley, I believe, signed in to speak. If you don't mind, come to the podium and address us with any issue you've got.
Good evening to the mayor and the council. I'm really just here as a concerned Alabamian, a former citizen of the city of Decatur. I am here on behalf, my name is Sarah Matthews Bradley. Most people that went to Decatur High back in the late 60s, early 70s, I was Montez Matthews. So I'm here to kind of represent the legacy of my mother, Carrie Dawson Matthews, and I'm here just to ask the city council and the city of Decatur to do their due diligence to honor her legacy and do the due diligence for the citizens of Northwest Decatur. It's very important that we recognize that Northwest Decatur is still one of the most diverse areas in Decatur, socially, economically, and racially. And for that reason, it would be really a shame or a travesty to take an entity out of Northwest Decatur that supports and has supported the city of Decatur and the citizens of the city of Decatur since the late 60s, early 70s. It's somewhere in this building or in the library, there's a picture of my brother breaking the ground for the Carrie Matthews Center, and a picture of myself cutting the ribbon when the center opened. So for that reason, I just implore the citizens of Decatur to make sure that we protect things that are historical. Legacies do matter, and whatever we, the citizens of Alabama, specifically the citizens of Decatur, Morgan County, decide and do now, we'll have repercussions 50 years from now. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for listening for me. And I will be attending other meetings and keeping abreast of what's going on with the Carrie Matthews Center. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Bradley.
Okay. Well, I'd like for the public to know, Councilman.
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead,
Okay.
Mayor.
So, we are working right now with the Housing Authority and trying to acquire a piece of property across the street from the current Carrie Matthews location. And that's just based on reports that we've received from two groups of engineers. The latest of those being one structural engineer. And so we want to do exactly what you've asked, Ms. Bradley, and thank you for taking the time to come and address the council tonight, our residents, and we certainly want to remember the legacy of your mother, whose center's named after, and the community.
I think, Mayor, that the people of our community, though, have asked that we do what we need to do to, and as she said, preserve the building itself. And we spend money on different projects, and this is a project that's worthwhile to the people of that community. If we want to purchase that property across the street and do youth services there or something, then I think people would be in support of that. But the intent or the desire of the people of District 1 and more specifically Northwest Decatur is to preserve that building and to bring it to a state-of-the-art building, and those walls continue to exist.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Jackson. Any other comments there? Thank you again, Ms. Bradley. I believe it's Ms. Everhart, maybe? Am I seeing that right? Okay. And we will do, I'm sorry I didn't mention it a minute ago, it's 3 minutes, and try to wrap it up after 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll be real short.
Okay.
My name is Panita Everhart, and I am a resident of the southeast side of Decatur, Alabama. My first issue is that you all just, there was a new ordinance passed for the dogs, okay? I don't have a problem with the ordinance itself, but it's creating a problem with my dog not being safe. In my community, they do steal dogs, okay? And I've been calling you all on a regular basis, the police department, in reference to it. And I don't mind trying to be in compliance, because I'm not trying not to be in compliance, but my dog's safety is more important to me than the policy is, all right? And so I don't know what exactly to do. I've already went to the facility, the animal protection place, and I talked to them, and they're even willing to give me one of those, the zip line that they want the dog to be on, but you can bend that and can break it and cut it, all right? And like I said, my dog's safety is my concern, all right? And so I don't know who else to address, and so that's why I'm here. That's one of my reasons. And I was also want to speak about when you all are making decisions as far as with developers doing things in our city or surrounding areas. I think that you all should take into consideration about the wildlife, all right? Because I woke up to a possum being in my house, all right, and their babies, all right? And so they deserve to have somewhere to live too, and I just wish that you all be more considerate about that. Then the real problem is that they wanted to charge me $300 to come and do something in reference to it. They offered to come and shoot it. It was just ridiculous things, you know what I'm saying? And I shouldn't have to be subjected to that, all right? Because they have a right to have a habitat just like we do. And so I want you all to take that into consideration. And if you can't do anything else, have somewhere where you all can probably fund them to come in and remove the wild animals from out of our living quarters. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's not my fault that they have to be there. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, and we can look into with animal services and police department and to the concerns that she's got, because I think she's already addressed those with them. Is that fair?
Sure, I just need to know a little about it.
Yeah, I think you've talked to animal services.
Yes, I have.
We can see what they're.
Brian.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will dive into our agenda. All right, first we have our approval of minutes, and if everybody's okay, we'll take those at once.
We need to do the last one.
Last one separate. Okay, so we'll do the first two together. November 8th, 2021, 5 p.m. work session, and November 10th, 2021, 5 p.m. special called work session.
So move. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Those two are approved with a vote of 5-0. And then November 15th, 2021, 9:30 a.m. work session.
So move. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Abstain.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye. Those minutes are approved with a vote of 4-0 with one abstention. All right, next we have an appeal, resolution number 21380, approved $5,000 penalty against Healthcare Investment Group Incorporated doing business as First Response Ambulance Service for not meeting 2020 fourth quarter fractal response times. We'll let Chip.
Yes, sir. This is the last quarter of last year. First Response had a fractional response time of 88%. The ordinance requires 90. The ARB, the EMS coordinator imposed a $10,000 penalty pursuant to the ordinance. At the ARB meeting, that was reduced to $5,000 in anticipation of the ordinance change that was coming up or that was being considered, which reduced the penalty to $5,000. They have appealed that, and now it's before you. Your options are to uphold it, to modify it, or to overturn it. The question was asked last week about the response times, and this is under the 8-minute response time because that was the ordinance that was in place at the time. Since then, the 9-minute response time has been adopted, and it would be the way since fractal response times are not an average, it would be very difficult to reconstruct the times. I think Mr. McMaster's asked, could we do that? Somebody asked if we could do that, and that would be very difficult, but the law at the time was 8 minutes.
Okay. All right, I assume you would like to address us.
Yes, sir. My name is Bartley Lofton. I'm with Lofton and Holt, and I represent First Response and Mr. Childers, quite frankly, in a lawsuit which we filed today against the city of Decatur relating to the treatment that they've received over the past year or so, including actions like this by the ARB. So I'm not going to get into the specifics with regard to that. Mr. Childers can cover that for you. But the bottom line is, if I heard it correctly, it was stated that both of the calls that are subject to this appeal met the time frame that was required under the existing law, and clearly also meet the time frame under the current law. And if you look at the applicable city ordinances that were applicable at that time, I don't think there's any question that the time frame was met on both of them, and we're kind of confused as to why we even got to this point. The second set of it is, put that aside, and if you look at procedurally how this occurred, there was a vote by the ARB, and then nothing was done on that for a period of time, and then the ARB changed, and the second ARB, the one we're here in front of you on, they literally had new members that heard no evidence in relation to what happened concerning the timing or otherwise in this situation, and were told that they just simply needed to affirm or not affirm what the previous ARB, which again had a different makeup of people, and they were told that they could just vote on it and affirm or not affirm, which they affirmed without hearing any evidence. We're talking about fining and costing a privately owned business a substantial amount of money and affecting their ability to run a business in this city, I guess to their detriment, but to the benefit of an entity that is a quasi-government entity that is being allowed to operate in this city and not meeting the various ordinances, such as having a proper certificate of need.
If you don't mind staying on the topic of this particular appeal and not discussing other ambulance services that are operating.
Well,
thank you.
I'm just saying, as a practical matter, I think the city should consider the fact that the treatment, this, quite frankly.
I'm just concerned about what this particular appeal is about, and I really don't want to hear anything else about anything else.
I understand, sir, and I appreciate that position, but it's clear to me that this is part of a concerted effort to try to put him out of business.
If we continue to go down that line, I'm going to stop this discussion.
I understand.
It's about this particular appeal. So if you would like to address that, please go ahead. If you do it again, we're going to stop the discussion.
Okay, well, then let me do this. Let me introduce Mr. Childers and let him explain to y'all the timing of the situation and what we're here actually talking about, the matter of seconds that we're referring to that don't even meet the statute at this point for him to be fined.
Good afternoon. While I'm getting you some documentation here, I just want to ask for clarification on something to this council. When does the response time start? When does this was actually not 8 minutes. This was in the police jurisdiction where it was 720 seconds, not 8 minutes. When does the 720 seconds start? I would like clarification on that before I begin my appeal.
Starts when the call goes out.
Well, which call are you referring to? Because I'm looking at the statute or the ordinance right here, and it says.
I think that would refer to all calls, would it not?
Yes.
No, but there's a.
The answer to his question was when the call goes out.
But there's a call into the city, and then it's dispatched,
Okay.
correct?
When the call goes out is not when the call comes into dispatch, it's when the call goes out.
The call goes out to the ambulance service.
Correct.
Okay.
And that would be when it's displayed on the computer-aided dispatch computer. Is that accurate?
It's when it goes out on the radio, right? When it goes out on the radio.
Thank you. So when the call is dispatched via the radio is when what we call the watchdog timer begins the countdown. Are we clear? Is that accurate?
It's your presentation.
I'm asking for clarification.
It starts when the call goes out, it stops when they get there. You use a clock to see how many seconds that's.
Mr. Johnson, please.
But to be clear, what we were trying to make clear there is it's at the time the ambulance service gets it, not when the operator gets a call, because that's not fair to put the time it takes the operator to get the call out on them. So that's why we were asking for that clarification.
Sure. And thank you for the answer of the call. The time starts at the point that it is dispatched via the radio. Okay? So the two calls in question that we didn't need to ask for exemptions on are the two calls that I gave to you council members. The first one ending in 4219. Before we reference these two calls, let's go to the first document I sent to you there. Section 320, straight from your city code. H, number 1. Okay? And we will skip to the second sentence that says a call is considered dispatched at the time of the initial radio and/or pager toning as automatically captured via the computer-aided dispatch. We agree with that 100%. Going to the second document that has the times. You can see this was from the Morgan County 911 Center that was emailed to us. When this complaint was before the ARB committee, or ARB board, excuse me, we challenged this and we asked that they take consideration of this because the response times were inaccurately calculated. They were calculated from the time that you see there that says CAD dispatch, CAD dispatch. That is not accurate per your ordinance. We've said this for many years. They still voted and affirmed the penalties. However, if we will look where it says radio dispatch, which is mentioned in your city ordinance H1, from the time of the radio dispatch, the hour, 3.47 minutes, 0.08 seconds. Radio dispatch. Travel down to the third one from the bottom. Arrived in CAD. Hour 3, 58 minutes, 0.43 seconds. That's 696 seconds. That's not 720 seconds. That time is in compliance, within compliance, not out of compliance. We stress this to the ARB. These are the numbers that are gathered from central dispatch. These are not generated by us. We can reference the city ordinance at that time, and it states within 12 minutes or less. That's 720 seconds.
So let me ask you something.
Yes, sir.
I need to find out, what is CAD's auto arrive timestamp?
That's a GPS.
Y'all gonna
have to come
Yeah, if you
forward.
don't mind, come. You don't have to come here.
And while they're headed this way, if I could just make one clarification, they are not being penalized for one or two calls. This is not reaching the 90% mark for a quarter. The only way two calls are in play is if they only had two calls that quarter.
Out of curiosity, are these the two calls that put them in the 90% margin?
Exactly.
That's my
If
question.
you take these two calls out, they're well within the operating margin where they would not and could not be fined. So that's misleading to say that these two calls didn't do it.
Well, I'm not trying to go off on something else here. I'm just trying to get to an exact point here because this comes time and time again, and this is something that I see it's an issue, and this is not just something that we have in the city of Decatur. This is something we have everywhere else. But we come in here and we argue about it, and we fight about it, and we divide each other about it. And this is something that it's ridiculous. We're not talking about each other here. We're not directing. This is ridiculous. This is people's lives. This is people's lives. And if you're given a job and you're expected to uphold. If you're expected to uphold what you're given the opportunity to do and you say you're going to uphold it, you need to uphold it. These are people's lives that they call 911 and they expect help from people. That's their last resort. They don't know what else to do but call 911. And we sit up here and I'm speechless at it. All we do is we sit and we argue about it and nothing ever gets done with it. And I'm tired of seeing that get done. I'm sick and tired of this coming here. This is a monthly thing. This is monthly. This needs to be handled. And something needs to be done. If somebody's in the wrong, we need to stop bickering about it. Because that's all I see we do is bicker, bicker, bicker. It's ridiculous. We need to get to the point, get it done, and call it quits.
All right, answer the question.
Councilman Jackson, the auto arrive feature is a GPS signal that when the ambulance arrives in front of the address of the emergency, the computer automatically marks that the unit is on scene.
And what is the accuracy of that GPS unit?
That depends on the accuracy of the equipment you have. So I have a question. You referenced call 4219, is that correct? What is the other call that is referenced?
When I take the podium, I'll discuss the second call.
And Mr. Jackson, to answer your question about the GPS auto arrive, it depends on if the vehicle is totally stopped, it depends on if it's moving, it depends on if the internet signal is good, and we also have video of the 911 director at the ARB meeting instructing the ARB of the human factors as well as other factors that affect the auto timestamp and the inaccuracy thereof. So we'll move on to the next call that was on your sheet, 5139, dispatched at 15:14 hours, 0.0 second. Arrived at 15 hours, 25 minutes, 0.46 seconds. You do the calculations on that, that's 720 seconds, or 700 seconds, excuse me, 700. It wasn't an overage of 721 seconds. It was 700 seconds. Okay? We don't understand why these calls were put in the out of compliance, other than they were calculated wrong and they were calculated from a time of CAD dispatch, not radio dispatch per your ordinance. The fourth quarter of 2020, if you take these two calls, which one call, the 4219, your EMS coordinator said was out of compliance by 7 seconds, which we've proven tonight is not. The other call, which your EMS coordinator at that time said was out of compliance by 2 seconds, we've proven once again neither call is out of compliance and are within the 720 seconds. If you add those two calls back, that puts first response at a 90.9% fractal. It's not just two calls, Mr. Alexander. It's 90%, 90.9. In the fractal world, that's 91%. We met your ordinance. It's documented, well documented, via the documents I've given you and the 911 center, as well as audio and video. And we submit to you that these two calls should have never even been spoken about. That we are here tonight on something that is totally baseless because people didn't read the ordinances and know how to responsibly calculate and formulate the response times. So we say to you, there should be no penalty, there should be no points, and we should start following the ordinance to the T. Because if we're going to put monetary penalties and points against people, I think the ARB board needs to be well-versed in the ordinances. You charge them with enforcing the ordinances and advising you guys, and you want to get good advice. That's our appeal. I think we've proven our case to you.
Let me ask one question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Jackson.
If two calls put you within compliance or put you over, you're not running very many calls in the PJ then, is that?
That's accurate. That's accurate. There was 70.
If two calls do it, then you're not running anything.
No, there was, for that complete quarter in the police jurisdiction, there were 77 total calls. So, yeah, 77 total calls. Call volumes dropped in the PJ, but there was only 77. That's the reason two calls makes the difference. And that we're in compliance. We've always been in compliance. but 77 calls was the total call volume in the police jurisdiction in the fourth quarter of 2020.
2 calls out of the 77
Correct, and those 2 calls that were counted against us were actually in compliance, and we have it documented as well as 911 has it documented, as you can see there before you in the email.
So is this just for the police jurisdiction?
So, real quick, my name's Ashley England.
I'll move over and let him take the podium here so it can be recorded.
He's got a microphone.
So, I worked for the fire department. I'm the previous EMS coordinator when this happened. Like Mr. Childers said, and his attorney, Mr. Tyndall, these 2 calls are a major factor in this. This is the difference between them getting the financial penalty and them not getting the financial penalty. So it's a major factor in this. The EMS ordinance states that the service has 48 hours to submit a time exception form. Is that correct, Mr. Tyndall and Mr. Childers? Is that correct?
Mr. England, I see where you're going with this. There shouldn't have been a time exempt form for these 2 calls because they were within compliance.
So,
If you have a question,
okay.
let's go.
So you have 48 hours to submit this time exception form. During that time, it's up to the EMS coordinator's job to investigate it, solely investigate it. On this call right here, these are the 2 time exception forms sent in by Mr. Tyndall with the times that he pulls from 911, the times his signature and the crew's signature. The reason they was not looked at is because the call happened on November 8th and November 27th. They submitted the time exception forms on February 1st.
Mr. Ladner, my question to you is, and I'm going to speak directly with you. Were the 2 calls that we just went over within 720 seconds?
Well, you said just a minute ago that we should go by the ordinance letter, call every T, every I dotted.
Correct.
Does it say you need to submit the forms within 48 hours?
The calls
No,
were,
does it say that?
the calls were within compliance. There should not have.
Answer, please, yes or no.
He is answering.
I am answering. The calls didn't need an exemption form because they were in compliance. What are we exempting ourselves for?
Was he notified of these calls that they were not in compliance?
They received a time sheet, a spreadsheet from Morgan County 911 every morning for the past 24 hours of calls they ran. It includes the times.
That is inaccurate information. The CAD was down the fourth quarter of 2020, and I think we need to look at.
So here's some other calls since the
Are
CAD
we
was
serious?
down.
But-
Since the CAD was down.
Let me
this
ask you a
time-
question. Are
No,
we
hold on.
seriously?
No,
So
we're
the
gonna
CAD
let
was
Ashley.
supposedly down at this time. Here's another call that happened on November 8th, the same time as this one call. It was submitted November 9th for a time exception form. Here's another call that happened on November 8th. The time exception form for it was submitted November 10th. Another November 6th, time exception form was submitted November 10th. So during this time, one to 8th and the 27th, they was getting their times from somewhere. So Mr. Tyndall, Mr. Childers, wherever you was getting your times from, that was this. This the same time frame as these 2 calls that you submitted in February for time exception.
Chip, do you have any suggestion on the ordinance changing from the time of these calls that are, and the other thing is, we're in the fourth quarter of 2021, and we're hearing an appeal from something from the fourth quarter of 2020, which is another issue.
I've got a brief explanation for that, but as far as a change in the law, technically, the law at the time it was in effect is what controls. It would be, if this was a criminal case, it'd be a prosecutor decision whether or not to proceed if it changed, but legally, the violation is based on that time.
Chip, a question I have is, you mentioned that ARB opted to reduce the penalty because of the upcoming changes to the ordinance, and that's why it's 5,000 instead of 10. Is that right?
Right. They have, it's just like they can adjust it. The EMS coordinator imposed 10,000, which is what the ordinance called for. It's their option to, just like you, to uphold it, to overturn it, or to modify it. They modified it down. The explanation, Tony Ward is the one that moved for that, and his explanation was, since it was in the works to change, why go with the higher one? We'll change it to the, you know, and try to be fair.
I have one question, I guess, for either one of you. Your point is that there never should have had to have been a time exception form at all, because you're saying there was a mistake in saying that the time was not met. Is that right?
You want to answer?
Is
Yes.
that not the whole point of an
Sure.
exception form?
No.
It's not?
No, not at all. In the end of the month, we get a summary, okay? In the end of the quarter, we take each 3 summaries and put it together to make a quarter, okay? These 2 calls were flagged on the dates of the monthly summary, and we went to the ARB when these charges or violations was brought up. We went to the ARB and told them that these 2 calls were in compliance. Within compliance. They shouldn't have ever been considered, okay? Did Mr. Tyndall do a time exemption? Sure, because they showed up in the red by the report we get from Central.
When it finally came up.
When we finally got the report from Central,
So
it showed up.
Need a time exemption form.
You did not need a time
It
exemption
did not
at the time
need-
of the call.
Correct. The times are within the 720 seconds, and it was a calculation mistake on the numbers that was sent to us. There should never have been 2 exemption forms filed at all for these 2 calls, because they are within the 720 seconds.
And here's the question for the council. Are you seriously going to take the position of fining and giving points to this gentleman to affect his business in the long haul, when everybody in this room can take a look at those numbers and see that they were in compliance? If we're going to talk about a technicality with regard to filing those exempt forms or whatever you want to call it, that's what an appeal's for. That's the process. Now y'all have the numbers, you have the real thing. They're not out of compliance is the bottom line, and we would just ask that the council do the right thing with regard to that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm glad you said tonight that we should follow the ordinance to the letter, because that's what's gonna happen going forward.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other discussion?
No.
Hey, I'm Tracy Thornton, Fire Chief with Decatur Fire. I'd just like to touch on a couple of things here. First off, they don't have to make 100% of the calls that they go on. They only have to make 90% of it. What we're here talking about is what's dropped below that 90%. We all want to get there quickly. We want to give good service to the people. I know we do as a fire department. I know First Response and Decatur Morgan we want good service to the people. Part of that is being to a call in a timely manner. So what we're talking about tonight is dropping below that 90%. A lot of it has to do with how quickly you get on a vehicle and get out of the station, how you got your vehicle, how you got your personnel staged, where you can get to it. During this same time, the fire department had a 96, 100% respectively in the city and the PJ on our times. I want to be clear that we do give time exemptions. Anytime there's something wrong with a call, they're welcome to give us a time exemption. It don't matter if it's a calculation in the CAD. It don't matter if it was being stopped by a train. It don't matter if it was ice on the road. It don't matter what it is. You're welcome to give a time exemption and we can look at it. We used to have the time exemption set up they had to do it within 24 hours. They said that wasn't enough time, so we doubled that time to 48 hours to make sure they had enough time to give those time exemptions. So these time exemptions that they're talking about, it's not a perfect system, as they said. There is flaws sometimes. That's why we have this built into our system where we're not fining somebody for something that they shouldn't be fined for. They could have given a time exemption within the time period, and it would have been looked at, not 2 months after the call had happened. And when we look at this, if we look at the times of it, There's many times on there that the times were above 8 minutes on their response. And they had en route times. That's the time they get the call till they get on the truck and start leaving, of 3, 4, 5, 7 minutes. One of the calls was in the middle of the city, and it took 7 minutes to get en route. That's another call that, you know, it ain't just these 2 calls, it's many calls that make this up. And if, basically it comes down to if they would followed and done the time exemption for whatever reason it was, it could have been looked at and dealt with then. It makes it a lot harder to try to go back and find numbers and do stuff when it's 2 months behind what the call was ran. I'm not sure, but like CAD, you brought them up a while ago, they don't keep the times but like for a month or something like that. Is that correct? That's what Jeannie has said, I think.
That would be a question for Ms. Ferris.
Yeah, I think they don't keep them but for a month. So it ain't like we can just let those build up and get them. And as far as the times, as Chief Daniel said, they said they come up in their report in February, I think, when they got that. Well, the state requires us to turn in, not just us, not just them, all EMS agencies. When we run a call, the state makes us turn in our reports to them within 72 hours. 72 hours, we gotta have our reports in and sent in with our statistics to the state. And so we know they were able to get times because those reports wasn't backed up and they wasn't sent in all at one time. They were sent in as the crews completed them. When the crews saw that they was out of the 8-minute time frame, they could have simply said, hey, we're out of the 8-minute time frame. Y'all need to do an exemption on this. But that didn't happen.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. All right, so this resolution is, did you have something else?
I was just gonna add something. He was talking about an 8-minute reply time. You're talking about a different scenario when you got a 12-minute reply time. I was under the standing, like you said, we're here about these 2 calls, and he was referring to other calls in relation to that. That said, if you want us to sit here and talk about each one of those calls, I don't think y'all do, but I mean, we could address all of those other calls, but we're here about 2.
Well, we're really here to appeal if the 90% threshold was met or not.
Right.
Which would include every call for that quarter.
Well, but it would, if these 2, I mean, it's undisputed that if these 2 are within the time, then that's not an issue.
He is on topic, is what I'm saying. Because we're talking about all the calls within that quarter. We are on topic.
I beg to disagree, but.
Okay, thank you. This resolution is to approve the $5,000 penalty, to uphold the penalty that the ARB decided to give to first response. So a vote yes is to uphold the $5,000. A vote against would be to dismiss the fine, just to clarify. Okay, we have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMasters.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say that we are an appeal board, and as was said earlier, regardless of what happens, we are the last stop, and we're the body that can either uphold this or overturn it. And in this particular case, you know, I don't know why they didn't, and they give a reason, and others say that they should have done the exemption, the exception report, but they didn't. But I think we know that if we're going to fine them this, we're going to fine them based on a technicality that is shown that if we take these calls and put the accurate times there, then they're in compliance. So I think that it's important that we, in my opinion, that we not fine them based on technicality. Not only them, but any business in our city should not be fined based on a technicality.
Yeah, Mr. Jackson, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I agree with Hunter. You know, we're talking about people's lives, and it is important. I agree with Mr. Childers. It's a technicality, and based on these 2 calls right here, they make their times. But ultimately, I agree with Mr. Ladner. You know, going forward, I's dotted, T's crossed. I mean, you know, everybody deserves a little grace, but this is just too great for me. That's what I have.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, yeah, if it's a technicality, it's part of the ordinance. And if we're not gonna, abide by the ordinance, we need to change it, which is what's been said about this topic forever.
Well, I'm not saying that we shouldn't abide by the ordinance, but they're in compliance.
Yeah,
They're in compliance. As far as the times go, and everybody here said that it's about saving lives, and it's about being on time so that we can address a life-saving situation. So, yeah, the ordinance says one thing, that we should have the exemption, or the exception, I keep saying exemption, but the exception in place. But the bottom line is, they met the criteria as far as being there on time that we've set as a council to save and to address the situation where someone was having a problem and needed their assistance. So again, yeah, it's a technicality, and we can look at it, you know, half full or half empty. But in this particular case, we are finding a Decatur company, business, for something that they met their obligations of, other than, again, the point that they should have seen. But they were there in time to address that life-saving situation.
Okay.
Hey, I'm going to add something really quickly. I'm curious to know something. If either chief wants to answer the question. Do we have a time limit on the appeal? So,
We do now.
Chip,
When the ordinance was originally written, we had put 14 days on the lower steps. Billy was the only one on the council then. And we did not put in the appeal from the ARB to the council. We didn't include the 14-day limit. The reason and that's what I was about to explain earlier, the reason it's set for 8, 9, 10 months, however long it took, they said they were gonna appeal. It's their responsibility to file the appeal. They didn't do it. We can't enforce it because they had not passed their 14 days. We took it back to the ARB after the council made that change to the ordinance, given 14 days. The ARB said on this date that was passed, and that started the 14-day running, which is when they appealed and which they brought it up.
Thank you,
Because
Chip.
to get it off, it was just sitting there in limbo.
well, thank you, Chip. Either way, the letter of the law needs to be followed, no matter what, and every T needs to be crossed and every I needs to be dotted.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Ladner,
No.
McMasters,
No.
Jackson,
No.
Ike,
No.
Pepper.
Abstain.
All right, the resolution fails 4-0 with 1 abstention. So no fine for you guys. All right, moving on to resolution number 21-234, authorize abatement of unsafe condition at 1613 Sherman Street Southeast. Who's David?
Okay, just a quick update since we were here last. We received a permit application from the property owner just a few days after the last public hearing. The permit was denied based on lack of content. The owner was notified by letter from our department. We did go back, revisit the property again at the request of the council. And I've got several hundred pictures that I can share with y'all, but in the essence of time management, I've got a much smaller quantity. If y'all would care to take a view, we'll get Ms. Simon to open those, and I can't see. If I see it, can y'all hear?
Yeah, we just gotta make sure that people not here can. There you go.
Oh, thanks, Cal. Okay, this first picture shows a contractor's truck in the front yard with an HVAC unit that they're ready to install in the rear of the truck. Next, foundation vent right down on the ground and the vent's missing. And if you'll notice in most of these exterior pictures, you'll see cracks in the stucco. Next, just more cracks, wires on the exterior of the house. Window. Next, another foundation vent, gas line on the exterior of the house. Next, new washer connections that have been installed. The old washer connection is in the middle bottom of the picture. Next, more cracks. Next, and some deterioration of the wood trim. Next, some more cracks. Next, got to understand too that this is a block house. The plumbing on this home is on the exterior. Another foundation vent. Next, and if you'll notice, these are all at grade level. Next, that's the kitchen ceiling. It's kind of, there'll be some more pictures, but it's plaster. The wire lath is on the ceiling. The plaster's come unkeyed and is all falling off. Next, more cracks and a plumbing vent that stops short of the eave or the soffit level, and they're supposed to penetrate and protrude above the roof line. Next, just some electrical and some wood that is, I believe, still connected, that was removed and thrown out of a window. Next, this is, I believe, the kitchen sink, and of course, if you'll look at the portion of the remaining trap for the kitchen sink, the plumbing fixture is not, if it were there, cannot be vented in that manner. Next, and the greenery growing into the house from the exterior. Next, more plumbing running on the outside and on top of the ground, and I believe that to be the washer line. Next, is that, there it is again where it exits the house. Next, more decay, and these are just all small little snapshots. Next, you can see where the window was replaced. Nothing's filled in around it. Next, storm door. Next, and that was a gas valve somewhere in the house with no appliance. Next, that's the exposed ground braid on the service entrance cable for the electrical service. Next, there's a 220 plug in where the wire comes straight out of the masonry, and there's no conduit or anything else. Next, there's another plumbing vent that stops short of the eave. Next, more of the same, and notice the deterioration on the wood trim around below the window. Next, and if you see the middle of the picture, the Romex electrical wire that comes out of the soffit appears to, and then more decay on the wood trim. Next, and a squirrel hole in the middle. More overgrowth. There's some more electrical wiring on the exterior of the structure. Part of that is cable, but some of that is old antiquated Romex. Next. Okay, this is where things get a little bit interesting. This is where the bathtub was located. It appears to us without doing any type of destructive testing or anything at other points of the home. You see the hole there with the daylight coming through. I believe that to have been foundation vent. It appears that rather than a slab or conventional floor joist like we would expect to see, that the building is sitting on gravel with, I guess for a lack of a better term, you would call 2x sleepers laying on their side in contact with that gravel or the ground under the house without doing further testing or tear out. We believe that it's all been constructed that way, and there's no methodology in today's codes to construct something that way. I don't think there would be enough head height to tear them all out, turn them up, get your clearance, or even if you use stuff ready for ground contact, you know, you would think that probably the only way, if you can fix that, would be to pour a slab inside of the entire structure. We've had some conversations with our counterparts in the building department, and they're in agreement with us that that's going to be most difficult to undertake that repair. Next. Same room next. Now that was a soft spot in the floor as well. If you'll notice the decay in the window and more cracks in the block work. Next. There's a picture of the home from the exterior. And as you can't see it, but there's a lot of deflection in the roof, but cameras try to fix that. It just, those things, defects don't show up well in pictures. Next. More plumbing on the exterior. Next picture, please. Okay. This is one of the workers there at the time that we went back to make our inspection, and if you can, as you can see, there's no dumpster or anything of that type, and they're using the trash can for the structure to take debris out and turn it up and dump it on the alley, also in violation of the city code. Next picture, please. That's just another one of the electrical service. Next. Next. See a little more roof deflection there, still not, it's difficult to see. Next. More electrical on the outside. Next. See the foundation vent at grade level. Next. Next. And again, when we arrived that day, there was a contractor there prepared to install that unit, and then no permit had been issued to do that. And we informed them that they couldn't do that. Next. That's just another exterior picture. Next. Flashing that had been used to make an exterior repair on the soffit. Next. Next. You can see the repair work where the window had been pieced back in and it's not been filled in, some cracks in the concrete block structure, and some deteriorated wiring on the exterior. Next. Gas line again. Next. Okay, next. And bird nest in the light fixture on the front porch. Next picture, please. That's the laundry room, opposite wall of where I had showed you the washer connections. Next picture, please. And there's another 220 outlet down there and attached to the wall. Next, please. Breaker panel, next.
Are you going through the several hundred or?
No, we're close to the end. Hey, we gotta see this
I
done.
know, I'm with you.
Next. Next. And next.
I did tell you to do this, didn't I?
It's your fault.
I know.
Next. Next. And next. All right, and there's some more. I think y'all get the gist. And if we'll go back, is the volume on, Brad, on the television? All right, and if you'll go back to the
This one?
you can't.
Just narrate it for us, David.
Well, in this particular one, this is a snippet from the YouTube video of the last council meeting in which Mr. Wiggins tells y'all that the work has been done. And we don't believe that the work has been done. Wait a minute.
The house getting done. We done the work that would need to be done to the house. All we're doing now is I was refreshing in the bathroom and the kitchen to get the house more modern look. So I'm giving it to my daughter.
So, again, the Community Development Department stands by our original request that council authorize the demolition construction.
Okay, Mr. Wiggins.
Yes, I'm Kerry Wiggins, and I bought this property as condemned property from Mr. Strong. And under the contract that I bought the property from Mr. Strong, it was underground, and Mr. Strong had got a permit and had done the work needed to be done to the house. But when we got over there, the house was insecure. We had some windows that was busted out and people could enter into there. We put them extra windows in the house to just secure that could nobody enter into the house for unsafety hazard. These pictures they took these last month after I was under the influence that y'all gave me permission to go do the work and I signed for a permit. Them not telling me that I wasn't able to get no permit. They took my proposal and then they made an appointment for me to meet them out there at the house. Well, I meet them out there at the house. All 7 of the community development workers come out there and they all break out in different orders and they start taking all these pictures. And I'm trying to figure, like, if you condemn this house, why are you out here now trying to find fault in the house when did you already condemn? So I'm saying, like, if you condemned it, the paperwork you had on the condemned first time ain't none of the stuff that you use in the day to use to tear it down. Yeah, the house is old. It was built in the 50s. Do it got some love and care need? Yes, it does. Is it repairable? It is, if I'm allowed to get the time to do the work. Yeah, it's going to be probably financial money took to do it. But I feel like I have the manpower and the finances to take care of it. And it's something that I, feel like I've been doing in this city for a minute. And I feel like there's no need to tear the house down, even though it's got a few cracks in it. Yeah, it's 50 years old, better. The structure changed. And yeah, the bathroom, you could use some ground, maybe lay a foundation in there to fix it up, but it's repairable. It's too strong of a house to just tear down. And I feel like the city should give me the time to do it. And now that Mr. Lee and his crew has came up with all these better reasons for me to make the house a much better house, then I'm sure that y'all give me much more time to take care of it, and I promise to do what needs to be done to make the house safe and beautify the city.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Wiggins?
I guess my question would be, how much money and how much time do you think it would take? Because I believe that's part of the permit process.
Well, under the old paperwork that they had for the condemned, the things that they had on the old paperwork probably don't succeed. I haven't even looked at their new form of what they need me to do now. I can only go by what they had when Mr. Strong owned it. So now that they done took all these pictures and got all these different, looks of structure changing and floors sagging, maybe, I don't know what it will take until they tell me what I need to do. And until they able to tell me what I need to do and I'm able to get a permit, I won't know.
The scope of the required repairs has never changed. The structure was condemned, therefore, the repairs, whatever they may be, will have to bring the house up to code compliance. This last inspection that we made at the request of the council was to see what had been done. We had been in the house, we had documentation and photographs when we were here the last time. The items cited as unsafe conditions in our paperwork simply state the things that were observed that created the unsafe condition. And we don't now, nor do we ever tell anybody what they have to do to bring the structure up to code. That's their responsibility if they're going to act as their own contractor to know what they do, what the code requirements are.
Any other questions for Mr. Wiggins or Mr. Lee?
You said you've done this several times, bought several old dilapidated houses and.
Yes, I remodeled the car wash, I remodeled the manual church.
But we've heard you didn't have a permit for this, right?
No, every job I ever done, I acquired permits for all of them. The car wash, I got a permit, I went under city code. For the house I'm doing now, I have a house that was condemned from some guys that were staying in there a few months ago. And only reason we're not through with the house now is we're having problem getting parts. But we finally got the meter box, a 200 meter box. We had to go from 100 amp to a 200 amp. And nobody had an outside meter box with a disconnect on it. We finally got one out of Huntsville the other day, so we finally getting that done. But each house I've done, I've redone a house on Thomas at 1603. I redone a house on Sandler, 1710. And all these houses were brought up under the code. The Thomas house was brought up under the code under 18. The Sandler house was just brought up under code under 2020.
Excuse me, not to interrupt, but can we stay on subject with the one topic that we're on? This is the only thing that's on.
Well, he asked me a question about the houses, so I was just asking a question about houses that I had under the code and standards of the city.
And I would remind the council at the last work session, and the mayor had asked a question, but the permit application that we had received that we denied was for $5,000. $5,000 permit to make these repairs. There's no way.
That was before he wanted me to rechange the whole structure, maybe put some more stuccos on the outside of the house. All I was doing was securing the house. I was going to remodel the kitchen. Didn't really need no breaker box because it already has one. It don't have fuses or nothing in there. And there wasn't no problem with the electric. All the plugs and everything worked, the outlets worked. Maybe it was one or two plugs that wasn't there. The previous people who lived there maybe tore it up or just took the socket out. I don't know. But when the electric part is no problem. All it was a bunch of cosmetic. Like I said, it's a stable house, it's a brick house, and inside the house they got like plaster walls. I don't know if you're familiar with plaster wall, but it's just like some concrete and wire wall. It ain't no sheetrock. And that's what he showed you in the kitchen was where the house had leaked before they put that roof on there. So what we were doing, we were just taking the rest of that thing down because it was unsafe for people to be walking in there, and we was taking it out. Like I said, and they came over there to stop us from doing any work over there. And I had HVAC people over there because, like I said, at the last meeting, I was under the impression that I had 30 days to go in and get this house done. And I had hired people to come to work. I had the HVAC people that they had out the scene. They were just there giving me an estimate to see what it would take to run the air conditioning in there. And that was an old unit and a water heater from another piece of property that I own.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Wiggins? All right, thank you. All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Do we have a second?
So, sorry to go back, there was some confusion last time, if I remember right, over the permit process, is that correct? There was, the previous owner had a permit when you bought it from him?
Previous owner was never able to get a permit. He had content issues for his permitting as well.
Okay, and Mr. Wiggins has not been able to obtain a permit yet?
Well, I wasn't allowed to obtain a permit. They wouldn't give me a permit on the ground, but they said that I couldn't do no work on it until, because they wanted to knock the house down. And they was gonna have to go through this procedure before I was able to get a permit. But they didn't tell me that. They had me making all these proposals up, like I was then had a chance to go get this up. Even like after this meeting, I was under the influence that I was gonna get it. So they tell me I need to get up there and write these proposals. I go write the proposals to him, and they make an appointment to come out there to the house to take all these pictures that he was showing you today. And not now time did he tell me that, Mr. Wiggins, you're not able to do no permit right now. You have to wait until Mr. Kyle get back, because they said that they waited on you to come because it's your district. So they didn't want to make a decision without you, so all the other councilmen voted to wait 30 days on you to do it. But I was under the influence that they had gave me 30 days to get the property won. So I was making my preparation to get my crews together to make sure that I can get this job done in a timely manner. Well, I wasn't able to.
I mean, but back to the amount of homes you've done this to, do you really think $5,000 is gonna bring that house up to code?
Well, $5,000 was just for like, I was only doing the bathroom and the stucco on the out, like the shutters there. A lot of the stuff just a little concrete, smoothing it back out, some vents for them holes up under there, cut the grass, trim it up. You're talking about a house that ain't been lived in for 2 years. And like, I've been cutting the grass because it grows. Like, that's what happens in the summertime. Grass and weeds grow. So if you leave something unattended and nobody's able to do nothing to it, then it's gonna have that look, bird nests in a light or things of that such.
I guess where I'm struggling, and as bad as the pictures are, and in my opinion, it does look like it's in disrepair, and you say it's not. I guess my concern is we're looking at demolishing a house, and in my opinion, I don't know that he has had an opportunity to make repairs, aside from getting the permit denied. I can tell you that it would definitely be more than $5,000 to bring that house up.
I'm sure it will be at this point. But like I said, the previous citations wasn't none of them there, because if it was, you wouldn't have had to go out a second time and go out and take up more pictures. Because you've been in the house, you know what the house looked like, because you condemned the house before. So why would you even have to come back a second time? It's almost like you're trying to make it more harder for me to complete my job. Instead of, well, let's give him a time matter and see can he do it, and just tell him that, hey, just bring this stuff up to code and make it happen.
The permit application, just for clarification, was rejected based on insufficient content and description of what was to be done on the sub-trades and for the general contractor. Permit application's there in the file. Our letters in the file that we sent him that rejected the permit application based on the absence of the necessary contents to bring the thing up to code compliance. From the date of the rejection letter that was sent to Mr. Wiggins on November the 9th, this December the 7th, you like what 2 days being a month for him to come back with an acceptable permit application, or at least add some more to the one that he had so that we had something else to go by. It didn't happen, and we've not gotten anything else, if that helps him.
I really think that I just got the runaround from the start, because Mr. Lee gave me this story that, I said, well, Mr. Lee, I got a great track record of working with these condemned properties and making it happen. If you'll give me the time to get this done, let's don't waste no city money by putting this on the council meeting and holding up people's time. Let me go do the work. Well, I can't do that for you because we don't do that for people. We got it on the minute, no problem. I never was allowed to get a permit. I just got the runaround when it came to the permit. He never told me firsthand that, Mr. Wiggins, these proposals that you made are too cheap. Not saying that, Mr. Wiggins, I understand that you're doing this labor yourself. and you got people that's constructing you through this here. Not that you're going hire contractors to do this, you're doing this labor yourself. So yes, it's much cheaper, because I'm getting rid of the labor, because I'm doing it myself.
It had nothing, it's not based on the dollar amount, it's based on what you're going to do, or what you tell the city that you're going to do to make the repairs, and the content is not there.
Well, on my other condemned properties, the city usually give me a list, and they say, okay, Mr. Wiggins, your outside structure is damaged here, you need to fix the borderline base around here, the inside the plug wiring needs some electric work, and they give me a ground to go from, and I know what I need to go in there and do. Well, they're not working with me, trying to help me with this permit at all, and it's just like, they just want to tear it down, they don't want to talk to me about it.
I think we've kind of got the gist of it. I made a mistake a minute ago, I'm sorry. This is a public hearing, so we will open the floor to the public to make any additional comments, if there's anybody that wants to. Seeing nobody else to speak on the matter, we will close the public hearing, and we will entertain a motion now. I'm sorry.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. We have a second. Okay, don't hear a second, so we'll move on from the resolution.
Can we make an amendment? We have not done business together yet. This is the first time you've come before the council.
Yeah, because most of my properties over in
District 1. I know you've had a lot of
1.
dealings with community development and a lot of houses. You know, it's in pretty rough shape, and I'd like to see an application, you know, that you apply for a permit that's acceptable by community development, and that you can get your issues resolved at the property. But I don't think this is something we can keep kicking the can down the road.
Well, I don't have a problem with, you know, going through the procedure to get what I need done to get the house done. But if I try to do something and I'm not allowed to, it's like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, I even got like some real attitude the last time I was up there with one of the employees. He like really like rubbed me bad. Like, but you know, it's not here or there.
I don't have an issue with you being able to obtain a permit if everything is appropriate. Like you said, you've done this before with condemned properties. You know, I guess what I want to hear from you is, are you willing to make this commitment to bring this house up to code?
No problem. I have done every house like that.
And if so, I personally don't have a problem with showing a little grace and trying to help you get to that point, but it hadn't started off great. But if you're willing to make the commitment, I'd much rather see it, you know, rehab than dirt.
Thank you.
Council, can you put a time limit on it?
I think that's the best way.
Can we even do that?
Did it fail for lack of a second, and that's the end of it, or are we moving to table it?
It failed for a lack of a second.
That's the status, but.
I think then he's got to go apply for just like there's nothing's happening, he would just have to go apply for a permit. And then if he can't get a permit, it'll come back, but,
Well, this would be one that, in cases like a lot of these, we would normally prosecute someone criminally. And in this particular case, we've had some issues, so we opted to come before the council. Seek the demolition. I guess.
it sounds to me, and I hate speaking for everybody else, but that what I heard was you guys want to give him the opportunity to try to get a permit, which we tried last month, and he was not able to get a permit. So I don't really know what y'all want to do.
Yeah, because I was told that I couldn't get a permit because all they did was just grant me 30 days until Mr. Kyle got back. They let him here because it was his district and y'all couldn't rule on Mr. Kyle's district. That's what they said, the video said on YouTube. They told me to go watch it. They didn't tell me that at first.
Wouldn't a new resolution need to be put on the agenda now that it's failed?
Since it failed for lack of a second, then that one is defeated. It would have to start over, or any other remedies that community development or development department would have, they could pursue, because they've got options on which ones to pursue.
Thank you.
But you're not gonna be able to do any work until you get a permit.
Correct.
So at the root of
No
the matter
problem.
is you gotta get a permit.
No problem, I have no problem with that. But I have to be allowed to get a permit.
You gotta apply for it.
You've got to complete a
Yeah,
satisfactory
I've made proposals, I have made plenty of proposals, and we, like I said, we got to the point where they said that I wasn't able to get it. So y'all said I can get it now, I'll just come up here in the morning and apply for the people?
Yeah.
I know we're trying to move on tonight, but we have the proposals. If any of the council members or the mayor would like to see them, they're there, they're in the file, or you can stop by the office.
Okay.
We'll be more than happy to share.
Okay, thanks, David. Thank you, Mr. Wiggins.
So make sure I'm clear, I do have the right to go get a permit.
You can apply for a permit. We're not saying you're automatically granted a permit.
Oh,
You
no,
can
no, I
apply.
understand the
Yes.
procedure of the
Yeah.
permits.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, next is ordinance number 214482, approved pre-zoning request 138121 to zone 59.8 acres more or less located east of Central Avenue and south of Pool Valley Road to R5 residential. Lee?
Yes, this is a pre-zoning request of 60 acres looking for R5 designation east of Central Avenue, south of Pool Valley Road, and this was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
Okay, this is also a public hearing, so if there's anyone here that would like to speak on this agenda item, you can speak now. All right, seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Ordinance number 214482 is approved 5-0. Next is ordinance number 214483, approved zoning request 137921, newly annexed property located west of McIntyre Lane and north of Wingate Way to be zoned R3.
Yes, this property was recently annexed and is looking to get a zoning designation of R3, and this was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
Okay. This is a public hearing as well. If there's anyone here to speak on this, can speak now. All right, seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Ordinance number 214483 is approved 5-0. Next is ordinance number 214484, approved zoning request 138021 for newly annexed property west of McIntyre Lane and north of Wingate Way to R5.
Yes, this is another recently annexed piece of property looking for a R5 zoning, and this was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
All right, this is also a public hearing. Anyone here to speak on this item can speak now. Bane wants to speak. All right, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Ordinance number 214484 is approved 5-0. Thanks, Lee. Item E was removed in our our work session for this meeting. All right, moving to resolutions. Resolution number 21382, authorize Decatur Utilities to enter into long-term natural gas purchase agreements. Gary.
President Ladner, council members and mayor, Gary Borden here with Decatur Utilities on behalf of the natural gas system. Decatur Utilities, being owned by the city, can take advantage of certain discounted gas contracts because we are tax exempt. The previous council, back in 2018, adopted a resolution to allow us to do that. We've done that, entered into 2 contracts since then, and it's worked and performed greatly for us, saving us our customers some money. What we have here today is basically the exact same resolution, with the exception we took out one item of the items here that we were restricted to 75% of residential commercial volumes. Since we've done this and it works good and we've got a good working knowledge of it, we'd like to take that 75% out where that it's not restricting us to the 75% where we can go ahead and commit all of our residential commercial volumes to us. So that's the only change in the previous resolution, and we'd like to ask you to consider this for approval and be glad to answer any questions.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion or questions for Gary? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No. Oh, I'm sorry, Yes, I said it wrong.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Pretty sure that was 5-0. Resolution number 21-382 is approved 5-0. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Resolution number 21-401, approved request from T-Mobile for a special use permit to modify equipment on the existing tower located at 401 McIntyre Lane.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Bass. I'm with CMS. What we have before us tonight is a proposal from T-Mobile to modify its equipment and antennas on this tower. The address is 401 McIntyre Lane. This is a 160-foot monopole. Currently, T-Mobile is offering service at 162 feet. They are requesting to take 9 antennas down, is what they currently have on there, and they're going to replace that with 6 new antennas, so it'll actually be 1 per sector less. This is that 5G technology upgrade. It shouldn't change any aesthetics, and it's not going to change the height of the tower. CMS has reviewed this application and is our recommendation for approval.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-401 is approved 5-0. Next, we have resolution number 21-383, assessed $285 against 220 Fifth Avenue Northwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-383 is approved 4-1. Next is resolution number 21-384, assessed $285 against 305 Vine Street Northwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-384 is approved 4-1. Next is resolution number 21-385, assessed $285 against 605 Holland Drive Southwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-385 is approved 4-1. Next is resolution number 21-386, assessed $285 against 821 7th Avenue Southeast for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-386 is approved 4-1. Next is resolution 21-387, assessed $285 against 1411 8th Street Southeast for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 21-387 is approved 4-1. Resolution 21-388, assessed $285 against 314 Larkwood Drive Southwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 21-388 is approved 4-1. Next is resolution 21-389, assessed $285 against 1811 Danville Road Southwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 21-389 is approved 4-1. Resolution 21-390, assessed $285 against 2613 Briar Avenue Southwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
I'll just say that on all of these abatements, I have, over the past few years, I've voted no on these. I think it's almost, it's absolutely certain that each person should take care of their own property, but I do think it's hypocritical when our city is not doing an adequate job of taking care of our property and imposing this on our residents. So that's the explanation for it right now.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Jackson. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Hyde.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 21-390 is approved 4-1. Next is resolution number 21-391, authorize mayor to submit an application on behalf of the city of Decatur to become a Keep America Beautiful Incorporated affiliate. Wanda?
Yes, Wanda Tyler, Landfill and Recycling. We're requesting that we be given the permission to submit an application to become a active affiliate for the Keep America Beautiful. We would like this opportunity because it will restart the Beautification Board, and it will also give us different sponsorships and partnerships and also grant opportunities that were not afforded at the time. And we are also, I just want to take, before I even go on, I want to thank Councilman McMasters and the Mayor to giving some names who want to be active on the board. And so you have those in your packet there. But also, this gives us an opportunity just to have a beautification committee that is committed to taking care of litter issues around the city, and also focusing on recycling, and also just beautifying our community, to have more of a partnership, a community involvement that I think we need in Decatur.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Before I start, I'd like to recognize former council member Paige Bibby, who's sitting in the back. She was the one who initially started our Keep America Beautiful attempt, or for us to apply for it, and made the affiliation with Keep Alabama Beautiful. What's the cost of this?
The reactivation is $4,500, and it will be $285 annually.
Now, why are we paying $4,500?
Because it's been inactive for so long. When I contacted Keep America Beautiful, they stated because it has not been an active affiliate for so long, that we needed to restart as an affiliate.
But now, we were active members in the year before COVID came, and we had, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and Paige, you might correct me on this, but I think that our affiliation was, we were allowed to keep that affiliation, and we don't have to pay dues based on the fact that we had paid dues and we did not utilize them during COVID. So I don't think that we've got fees that are due here. That's the first thing. The second thing, and I'd like to check on that before we spend money on that, because I think that we have consideration in place where we don't have to pay that $4,500. The second thing is that we have essentially placed a board in place, and there's no vote on the board. We have not opened up, from my understanding, we've not opened up for application for board members, so I don't know how we pass this tonight without opening up for application for board members.
Well, part of the application process, they want us to already have a committee formed. And within that committee, you have different task groups, litter task group, committee that will take care of numbers and things like that. Maybe a task group, I'm hoping to start the Great American Cleanup this spring. So there'll be different task groups within that. Now, I sent an email to all of you and just requesting that you go out into your districts and find those people who would want to be a part of this beautification group. And unfortunately, I didn't get any response back other than Councilman McMasters and the mayor. So that was my opportunity of opening it up, so it wouldn't look like I was just choosing people.
No, I like one that you want.
Yeah.
But as a city, we have to open it up and
Okay.
allow for the application process by our own code. We have to open up for application process for board members.
Okay.
And, again, nothing towards you, just didn't know, but, we've got to open this up to board members before we, move forward with this is, what I think we are.
So they want you to have a board in place before we would,
They want, well, it's it's a committee that will start the process. In the packet, I already did bylaws, but those are bylaws that I've used in the past that worked in the, for other committees. But that is not you have to nominate a president and a vice president, a secretary, and those things like that. But, I mean, if we want to change all this,
I guess
we
my
will
question
start
is,
over.
it seems a little odd that you would form a board and we would vote on board members before we would even submit an
Well,
application.
we're not voting on board members. I'm really
Right,
asking
that's
that
what
we
I'm saying.
submit the application so we can become the affiliate, so we can start the process.
So,
But if we want to do it differently, I would be happy to.
are we saying that these team members are not the intended board members?
These are people that were provided to me who are interested of being as part of this beautification board.
And again, I think that, Chip, you know that we've got to have an application process for any board and this is gonna be a board.
Well, you have to have application process or choose from the people that have already volunteered to make appointments. I think that at this point, there's not a
We're
board
asking
to
for a
appoint
board,
anybody.
we're asking to
There's not a
appoint
board
board
to
members to
appoint.
something we don't even have.
Correct, so we'd have to do the application first, and if that's, then you would appoint board members to that.
So again, we're putting team members on that are essentially board members.
I'll take them off.
Right, I think we need to get the application done and become a member and then appoint board members to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way it would go, and
I don't
through
think
the
that's how,
application.
I don't think that's how we did it initially. I think we voted on those, members initially, but anyway.
So we voted to appoint members to a board to an organization that we were not a member of.
That's exactly right. We
Okay,
voted on
that
those.
seems a little odd to me.
Well, that's what we're calling for. We're calling for team members, which is another word as to board members. And that's synonymous with our board members, and we've got those people here, and by state law, we've gotta have an application for that if we're gonna do board.
Let's make sure we can actually appoint board members to an organization that we aren't even a part of first. But if that's the case, then let's do that, if that's the correct process.
I guess my next question is, when we go through this information, we've got an executive director with salaries and benefits, office space and furniture, telephone, office equipment, printing, postage. We've got expenses here that aren't gonna be encompassed by $4,500. So are we talking about more expenses here later on, or what are we looking at? Are we gonna put this together and then we've got more expenses to follow, or is that, and I don't think we have to pay the $4,500, but would that be the extent of what we're paying?
In regards to being a member, 4,500 is. Now, there will be other costs to have these different projects, such as the Keep American Cleanup that's coming up. One of the things I know that Keep Alabama Beautiful doesn't supply anymore is trash bags. So if we're gonna do any sort of efforts in regards to litter pickup or anything like that, yeah, we'll probably have to buy trash bags. So
I understand that.
yes, there are gonna be some costs associated that we may have to fund that we can't maybe get a grant for.
But in our packet, Wanda, it says need.
I'm sorry?
In our packet, I'm sorry, let me talk back to you.
Uh-huh.
In our packet where it says need,
Uh-huh.
it's got executive director, salary and benefits.
It's recommended, yes.
And
In
so
Hattiesburg?
Are we saying that at this particular point, we're not intending to fill those?
In Hattiesburg, Mississippi, I didn't do it.
Okay, you didn't do it, so
No.
is that?
It was under recycling, and the recycling manager took care of it. It depends on what we desire. It depends on what the board desires to do also.
So I guess my question is, if I'm trying to get a better grasp on what we're looking at for future cost, are we intending on having an executive director with salary and benefits,
We could or we couldn't.
So we truly don't know what the cost is when we're voting on this tonight.
We don't know in regards to what those are, but I'm requesting that we become an affiliate. That's what I'm here for tonight. In regards to setting up the board, if we have to change it due to certain laws, then we will make those
But
changes.
essentially, if they're going to hold our, okay, I'm just looking at essentially if they're going to hold our, initiation cost from the year before last, then we're essentially already in the.
What do you
Mr.
mean?
Jackson, this
I don't
is
know
a
what that
step
means.
to fulfill the very reason that you said you voted no on all the assessments earlier for nuisance. This is a step to try to
Oh, I'm
improve.
familiar with what this is. I mean, I don't need an explanation for what this is.
Well, it looks like you're going against it.
No, I'm not going against it. I need clarity as to what I'm voting for.
Chip's giving you clarity.
No, he's not. No, he's not. So until I'm satisfied with that, just back off for a second, okay? But the thing is that I'm trying to figure out where we are.
He's harassing her.
No, I'm not. I'm not harassing questions at all, But I'm just trying to figure out where we're going from here. If we're looking at future costs, if we're not looking at future costs, because, that's all I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
I would assume if we're gonna pay an executive director of this, we would probably vote on that, if we're gonna have costs. So, and my other question, how long were we
I
members?
think that would be a new position too.
How long were we members of this organization before we lapsed? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, do you know Mr. Jackson?
We became members in 2019, I believe.
Did we, I assume we did not
So
hire
I
an
keep
executive
hearing we
director.
became members in 2019, but when I contacted them, the application process had not been complete. They, and,
We voted on that year
yeah, I wasn't here, but, but when well, I'm just telling you what, that's the reason why I said, okay, this is something I want to be involved in, contact them, talk, to Mayor, and Mayor Bowling said, gave me a support letter, and that's why I'm here. So I'm not really sure. I have to do some research on really what happened, where they're not recognizing it now.
And again, I don't want you to ever think I'm harassing you. I just
Oh,
want
I don't feel harassed.
clarity as to what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just say it is clear in my mind what we are approving from an expense standpoint, because if there was additional expense other than our application fee and the ongoing annual costs, we would actually approve those.
We would have to approve that, but then we need a scope of what we're doing, Jacob, before we get to that point. I mean, if we're applying for something here, it could turn into $100,000 venture if that's what they need and that's what they require.
If it was
And we would
approved.
have to vote on that, absolutely, but all I'm asking for is clarity moving forward as to what we're actually looking at here.
Okay.
And
So
that's
may I
what's
ask a
in here.
question? So in 2018, what was the vision? I'm sorry, 19.
It's exactly what it is now.
Okay.
We were trying to get the affiliation because we know that we can get grants through industry and different companies.
Right.
We knew that we could do that. We know that we need a cleanup effort here. We know that that affiliation is going to benefit the city in so many different ways. So yeah, that was the intent, and that's what the intent is now. I'm all for that.
Okay.
Like I said, I just wanted, when I read through my packet, there was, it said that we had these needs, and those needs weren't being addressed, and I wanted to address those things
Okay.
before we move forward.
Okay.
I'm fine with a table of this if we need to just apply, not have, what could potentially become board members without having voted on those.
Okay.
I think and I think Mr. Jackson has made it clear he wants some clarity, and I think
Okay.
if we can provide that, we can get it on one of the next agendas.
I will.
That would be my position, but somebody would have to move to do that.
Okay.
So move to table.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Pepper. Sorry, we already had a motion second, but motion by Mr. Pepper to table, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion on tabling this issue? Roll call.
Widener,
Aye.
McMaster,
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike,
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
All right. And I think we do owe Wanda some names, but apart from that, if we can separate the application from the names.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wanda. Next is resolution number 21-392, authorize mayor to accept Alabama Historical Commission grant for Girl Scout Little House.
This is the Girl Scout Little House in Delano Park, and this is a non-matching grant, so the city does not have to put a dime up for this one. We are not entirely sure how far the money will go, but the building is leaking and it needs window repairs, and we'll just sort of see as we move through the budget what we can do.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-392 is approved 5-0. Next is resolution number 21-393, approve JDL Preservation Consulting to perform Albany Commercial District resurvey.
The acceptance of this grant from the AHC was approved several months ago. The commission met to look at the application. The response, the one that they approved, was JDL Preservation Consulting. And this is to enter into a contract with them to resurvey the commercial portion of Albany, which I think the last survey work was maybe in the 90s. So it's an out-of-date survey.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-393 is approved 5-0. Next we have resolution number 21-394, approve one-time pay increase of $400 for full-time city employees.
Michelle Sandlin, Human Resources Director. This resolution was brought forward on the work session to recognize our employees with an additional $400 one-time pay increase for employees who were on payroll on or before September 20th, 2021. There was discussion last week about moving that to a $900 figure. Just need clarity on what the council would like to do.
And this is in addition to the $100 we approved. Okay.
I'll make a motion to increase that to $900.
Second.
So we have a motion to amend the resolution from $400 to $900, and a second by Mr. Pepper. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Okay, that amendment is approved with a vote of 5-0. So now we'll vote on the resolution itself. Have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pike,
Second.
second by Mr. Pepper. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-394 is approved 5-0.
Excuse me.
Resolution number 21-395, approved proposed rate increase for Point Mallard Water Park. Stephanie?
Mayor, council president, this resolution, well, I'm Stephanie McLean, Point Mallard Park. Sorry, I always forget to tell you who I am. This is a resolution to increase the daily rate and season pass prices for Point Mallard Aquatic Center. This price increase would allow us to increase our seasonal employees' hourly rate of pay to be more competitive in the job market. Point Mallard Aquatic Center has not had a daily rate increase since 2013, and we have not had a season pass increase since 2011.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm here again. I would just, I can't support this tonight. And I think that it's important to realize that when we built Point Mallard, we were one of only 2 cities in the nation, I think, that had a wave pool. And so we were a regional attraction. We could attract people from everywhere. Now we've got situations all around us where people are building wave pools and they have good, nice facilities around us. We're just not going to be the draw that we've always been. I think that when we start doing things like this, we start to price our local residents out of this and out of our ability to be able to use the aquatic park. I understand that we need
Okay, any other discussion? Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Roll call?
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-395 is approved 4-1. Next, we have resolution number 21-396, approve repave seal coat of Decatur City Hall parking areas. Carl?
Yes, Mayor, Council, Carl Pruitt, City Engineer. I was asked to look at our City Hall parking lot and, I guess make a recommendation of what to do. And what I have before you is to repave the drive aisles and seal coat the actual parking spaces for the front and back City Hall parking lots, and recommend approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
We discussed it in the work session, it'd only be appropriate to mention it again in the council meeting, and that would be to also yellow paint the curb and crawl.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. It just pops whenever that happens.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call?
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-396 is approved 5-0. Next is resolution number 21-397, approved truck purchase for engineering department, street department.
Yeah, this is to replace one of our older dump trucks for the street department, and it's funded in the alley fund, so I recommend approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call?
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-397 is approved 5-0. Next is resolution number 21-398, authorize mayor to execute agreement with AlDOT to upgrade intersection US Highway 31 at Target entrance.
Yeah, there's a development that's proposed going on the west side of US 31, just across from the Target development. And some of the signal upgrades that are required, the state requires a maintenance agreement between the municipality and the state for that to happen. So recommended y'all approve this maintenance agreement.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call?
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-398 is approved 5-0. Next is resolution number 21-399, approved payment to AlDOT for West Moulton widening.
Yeah, part of our widening of West Moulton several years ago, I guess we had an overrun for this project, and AlDOT has sent us a bill and we recommend paying that bill.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call?
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-399 is approved 5-0. Next is resolution number 21-400, approved budget amendment for engineering department renovations.
Yeah, Mayor, Council, we're expanding our department by at least one person, I guess, currently, and need to create some office space, and this money would be to renovate our large room in our building to create that office space.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call?
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-400 is approved 5-0. Next is resolution number 21-402, relocate AT&T facilities between Wilson Street Northeast and Prospect Drive Southeast on 6th Avenue Road.
And this would be a part of our 6th Avenue beautification or improvements along 6th Avenue, and this is the cost for AT&T to relocate their facilities underground, and recommend approval if y'all want to move forward with this project.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pike,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call?
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution number 21-402 is approved 5-0. Our next council work session will be held on December 13th, 2021 at 5 p.m. and the next regular council meeting will be held on December 20th, 2021 at 10 a.m. Anything else from department directors? Ms. Sandlin?
As you know, the Friday before Thanksgiving, we completed the municipal judge candidate interviews to see feedback from this council on the go-forward path, please. You have 3 candidates before you.
Okay. Any discussion there?
Ms. Samlin, well, first I want to say that being a judge is extremely tough, so I've heard. I've never sat in the position myself. It's always been a dream since I was a kid. And to participate in hiring one is extremely honorable. It is a fantastic thing that I'm glad that I get to participate in, and I'm glad I get to participate in it with each one of you. Tonight, I'd like to make a recommendation to move forward with Takesha Golston. I don't know what else needs to be said other than that.
Well, I'll talk to, I think it's important to talk about why we may lean in certain directions, and this is just my personal opinion, and I would say the 3 candidates that we interviewed all did a very good job and are all qualified for this job, in my opinion. Different levels of experience and different types of experience. I would say too, we got a lot of feedback from the community. I actually told Bain earlier, I got more feedback about this than I did about a 3M settlement of almost $100 million, and our sewer overflows that were big issues in the campaign. More feedback on this issue than those two. And you know, sometimes I thought some of that feedback got a little bit maybe emotional, political, I don't know. So in personalities, and we know these people that are applying personally. And so for me, you know, when things kind of get politically or emotionally charged, you have to go back to a system, you know, to remove emotion and politics. This is just me talking. And I would say my system here, because frankly, well, I hate to speak for all of you, but we really aren't qualified to pick a municipal judge. I'm certainly not. And so what I do in those situations is go talk to people that I trust and that are qualified. Either they're attorneys or judges, and they can give me the appropriate feedback. So my system number one, and far outweighs the others, is to talk to people I trust that are qualified and can give good recommendations. Secondly, the interview process, or sorry, the resume, what the experience is important. You know, if they have experience as a judge or not is important. Again, a long second place to personal feedback from people that are qualified to make these decisions. And then third is the interview. And I thought everyone did very well and made their case in the interview process. So after saying all that, based on the feedback and all those other factors, I agree with Mr. Pepper, and my, I guess, unofficial vote would be to move forward with Ms. Golston.
And I'll second what Jacob said. I think each candidate did outstanding. And I also agree that none of us are qualified to hire a judge, even though that we are stuck with the decision on it. I agree with what he said, that I outsourced to many attorneys and judges throughout this county and other counties alone, and had some reach out to me with recommendations and advice on the situation. And each candidate was recommended by many people. They all did wonderful in the interviews, and I just want to say thank you to each one for applying for the position and putting yourself out there for this position.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'll say we've hired, gosh, how many directors since we started a year ago. This one was difficult. There was a lot of public feedback. They're right, we're not necessarily qualified. To hire a judge, I've said it, I guess since the day of interviews, I feel like any 2 candidates could have dropped out and we would have ended up with a great municipal judge. So definitely a tough decision, and one that a lot of thought and a lot of process went into.
So for clarity's sake, we are moving forward with Takesha.
Is anybody
Golston as your
opposed to that
candidate.
or have any other thoughts? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from department directors? Mayor?
No, sir.
Anything else from council? All right, we're dismissed, thanks.